all the 10 seasons of Fortnite ended and left us with so many questions unanswered. One of the most mysterious characters of Fortnite is the Visitor. The Visitor's tapes explain a lot more than we've even thought of. So let's hear the Visitor's tape again and try to figure out what the Visitor was exactly trying to say.
What the 7 of us are attempting is very risky. I suspect they are not the only ones watching, but it must be done or we lose the bridge forever. I speculate that no one calculated the formation of the island, that interdimensional matter collisions would resolve rather than push. Now that I witnessed it firsthand, it's obvious that pinching alone made it inevitable. When I hear this again, will it help me remember? Or once looped, will I be just as muted as the others? No matter, it seems the lengthy precautions worked. The theorem was a success. You arrived outside the loop at the exact moment of expansion. This effectively paused the singularity, giving us time to create the devices needed to synchronize the junction. What I didn't factor was that the only way to trigger the device was from within the loop itself. Thus this hasty and primitive recording. And why now I find myself looped. Activate the beacon at precisely the moment this timer reaches nothing. The 0 point must be contained once more. If they are correct, it will be the end.
He says I, us, you, and he's confused. So it means that I, us, and you, all these were the same people. And also during the event, we saw 6 more visitors come out. The first one went inside the 0 point, and the other 6 were around it. Let's jump on to our next clue.
Now that I witnessed it firsthand,
the Visitor had witnessed it already, so this might mean that he's referring to the event that happened already in Season 4. That was the rocket launch event. That is why the Visitor talked about the loop. A loop is a phenomena that happens over and over, that is again and again, and repeats itself. So does this mean the Visitor was trying to break out of a loop? Only thing happened again involving the Visitor was the meteor. The meteor was again on the map. So if that is what he's referencing as a loop, then it means that the Visitor will have to do the same set of things that he did before. Also, the map had to be reset again to Season 3 to let the Visitor perform the same actions again. This means that when the orb on the loot lake, or the 0 point on the loot lake, exploded, it was going to reset the map. This is the only logical explanation to how the loop will be formed. But why is the map not reset to the state as it was when the rocket launch event happened? Instead, the map is now paused. Also, everything from the previous seasons came on the single map. But how? Now this is where the
theorem
comes in. The Visitor had figured out a theorem that made his other versions come out at that moment of expansion or explosion of the orb, as he said. Also, everything from the previous seasons came back to the island, and also the time is paused.
You arrived outside the loop at the exact moment of expansion. This effectively paused the singularity, giving us time to create the devices needed to synchronize the junction.
So this might mean that the expansion that he's talking about is the orb's explosion, and pausing is everything being stuck, and pausing the singularity is everything from the other seasons coming out all together at once. This gave them time to build the devices to synchronize the junction. The junction. Here, the junction is a point which brought all the 7 versions of the Visitor together. So this means to synchronize the junction is to get all the 7 work together to break a loop. Now, at the time they were building their devices, the Visitor records what he knows for his future self, so that when he hears them, he remembers what had to be done. The Visitor says this:
when I hear this again, will it help me remember? Or once looped, will I be just as muted as the others?
This means that the others have forgotten what they have figured out. Maybe others are muted, which means that they have lost their memories because they have already been collided from the island due to the impact. The only thing now they want is to escape the island with the design of the rocket they had. When they escape, they recall all the events that had happened before, but the island is reset again and they will strike the island in a meteor again, losing their memories. All thanks to the theorem, which paused everything, and the current Visitor has not stuck with the island, so remembers everything what has happened to him all the 6 times before. Now, when all the 7 versions were together, what was their plan? Let's find out.
What the 7 of us are attempting is very risky. I suspect they are not the only ones watching, but it must be done or we lose the bridge forever.
They have to break a loop somehow to go back to where they came from. But how will they do that? Does the visitor know something that will help him in his mission? Yes, he does. Listen to this.
I speculate that no one calculated the formation of the island, that interdimensional matter collisions would resolve rather than push. Now that I witnessed it firsthand, it's obvious that pinching alone made it inevitable.
So, the visitor knows something about the formation of the island, and seems like the kind of rifts he made are the interdimensional matter collisions, which he thinks will resolve something in his research. The current version is able to say this because he remembers exactly what happened after he rifted.
What I didn't factor was that the only way to trigger the device was from within the loop itself. Thus this hasty and primitive recording, and why now I find myself looped.
Now the visitor figures out that the device, that is the rocket, can only be triggered only when he is inside the loop, that is when he is rifting. When the device is active, when the singularity is not paused. Now, how will they do that? Listen to the next recording to figure out.
Activate the beacon at precisely the moment this timer reaches nothing. The 0 point must be contained once more. If they are correct, it will be the end.
Here the visitor mentions them, which he also mentioned at the beginning of the tape. They are not the only ones watching. Now, we do not know who they are, but they have told him a way to escape from the loop, to unpause the singularity, that is, to activate the beacon precisely at the moment the timer reaches nothing. According to them, the 0 point must be contained. This should mean that the visitor has to rift at exact moment he hits the 0 point to contain the 0 point back in its shell. So, he teleports the orbs along with him. At that moment in his rocket, the timer will show nothing. So the visitor interprets it will be the end, as the end of the loop. So he does the same, and turns out his estimation was wrong. They were talking about the end of Fortnite Chapter 1 map and not the loop. So this tells us that the 0 point acted as the core to the island, and when there was nothing in the place of a core, the whole island has to be sucked out of existence. So after the island was gone, he sends the signals. I was not alone. Others were outside the loop. This was not calculated. Nothing is now inevitable. He found out that there were other people too who have done the same mistake as he did. He tells us that others were outside the loop, so maybe others were able to make their way out of the loop. As they did not go inside the orb, obviously the visitor has not calculated that could happen. The black hole which he refers to as nothing was now inevitable. So this is what exactly explains what the visitor was trying to say the whole time when he was leaving the tape on the map. So if you have any doubts regarding this explanation, please comment down below and let me know what you think about this explanation.